Come on, Circus Brad. Screw the magazine. Bruce, come in. All right, let's go. Come on, let's go. Don't put the magazine down. What's our left and right? That evening when I killed that first soldier, I sat down and wrote my mom a letter and I started bawling. I just couldn't tell her about it. I mean, how do you tell your mother, an 18-year-old boy, I just killed 3 men? I mean, you know, how do you do that? I mean, I never did tell my mother that.
I got to kill somebody probably halfway through my tour in Vietnam, which was about 6 months. He was an NVA soldier. He was running across the front of us during a heavy monsoon rain. He was just basically a gray figure. And 3 of us opened up on him, and we got him. He wasn't killed right off. He was still alive when we got up to him. I looked in his eyes, and he looked at me. He had no fear in his face. That's probably why I didn't shoot him. I thought we did enough to him.
About 2 weeks before I came back, I killed 2 more. And what has bothered me is I had a choice. Do I go for, you know, to wound them and take them, or do I go for a headshot? I took the headshots, and they were quick.
Why?
I guess for praise. That's how we got our respect. That's how we respected each other. I guess the more vicious you were, the more you were respected and feared.
You know what buck fever is when you've got a target and you start to shake and you're difficult to aim. Well, I had buck fever when before I pulled the trigger. I kept thinking, if I don't hit him right, he might get up and come kill me.
I don't think I killed any enemy soldiers myself. That was my job. For my first tour, 12 months, I was in charge of 40, then 160 young paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division. They did the face-to-face killing. I called the shots. My memories are of those who didn't make it. Milan, Willingham, Caramella, Moritzen, Brunson, Curd, Daw, Bumpus, Martin, Carter. My men, my orders, my memories.
The idea of taking a life, you know what I mean, was, I just felt ashamed. I just felt, dirty, you know what I mean? Like you wanted to just keep washing your hands or something. I just felt really bad. But as time went on, it got easier, you know? They were just targets then after that.
I accidentally killed a child. And one of those little villages, someone, just a flash to my side, I turned and I fired, and it was a child. That's a regret.
Probably the only situation I dwell on is when I missed an NVA soldier. And I dream over and over how I should have done it, how I should have tried to kill him different, but I missed him.
Next to war, all other forms of human endeavor are insignificant. It was man's most serious business we got involved in, and we were just kids, just babies. We weren't men yet.
The loads we carried was close to 80, probably 80 to 120 pounds, depending on what the man's job was. The heat, the sweat, the rivers we had to cross, the leeches, the scorpions. You were exhausted. It was from sunup to sunset. You humped. It would take 2 paratroopers to pull one man to his feet because of the load he was carrying. And those kids weighed between 115 and 130 pounds. They were supermen.
As Tim O'Brien wrote in The Things They Carried, the most insightful book on the Vietnam experience, we carried all the emotional baggage of men who might die. Grief, terror, love, longing. These were intangibles, but they had tangible weight. We carried shameful memories. We carried the common secret of cowardice. Men killed and died because they were embarrassed not to.
We were wandering around in a strange jungle 10, 15, whatever that is, 10 or 15,000 miles away from home, killing people and dying.
This is about killing and dying and memories that do not fade, even after 42 years. It's about how we lost lives, how we saved some, how my men saved me, and how we tried to find redemption. War is like a drug, and we were hooked on it. We discovered that nothing gives more meaning to the present moment like the prospect of that moment ending. We were soldiers, fighting not for some grand idea, but because we were there. We didn't fight for you. We fought for each other, simply to stay alive. That is the nature of combat. It left an imprint on our brains which you may not be able to understand because you weren't there. We did terrible things, proud things, and perhaps the only ones who can understand are those who served like us, with the prospect of life ending in a flash or a groan or a whisper. Nothing made us feel more alive or made us feel worse than to stand among the survivors.
My worst moment was when I had to recover the bodies of fallen soldiers in our unit. Hands were missing, meat was gone off of the arms. I reached down, I grabbed a hold of the bones, started to pull them away. It felt like wet nylon. Things I weren't prepared for.
None of us were prepared for the weight of what we would carry for all those years after the war. "34 years after I left, in 2002, I went back to try to lighten my load and put new pictures in my mind.
Well, here we are on the Hanoi, the way to Hanoi. We're on the way to Hanoi.
My son and I spent 3 weeks without guides or interpreters, finding the places where I'd fought, discovering that Vietnam was like a beautiful mother with a short memory, forgiving of the children who had inflicted so much abuse on her. 7 years later, in 2009, I asked 4 men who had served with me to go back once again, in the hope that she'd be as nice to them as she'd been to me, that returning would give them the gift of better memories. I owed them that because of my own memories, of what my men had done for me, not only during the war, but many years later, when I simply no longer wanted to live. They gave me their respect when I had lost mine. Back then, I'd been their commander, the old man, 23 years old. We weren't buddies then. I was just trying to do my job and still keep them alive. Not an easy task when the best made plans often didn't work out, when your enemy sometimes had better plans. My memories from that time were different because they were zipped up in black plastic and sent home, their names eventually etched on a wall.
I used to sit on radio watch and watch my company commanders call in information to battalion. And I used to and call in how many men we lost. And I used to think, I only have to worry about one man, myself, and try to make sure I don't accidentally shoot somebody in a fight. That's all I had to worry about, and run a radio. The company commander has to live with every man he lost. I'm not sure I would want to be a company commander.
Terry Wren was one of my radio operators. I had 2. The other, Jeffrey Flournoy, never made it home. The 3 of us were kind of like a foster family, and I was the demanding, hard-ass stepdad. We moved, ate, and slept within arm's reach of each other. They knew me at my best and at my worst. One of Terry's worst was a one-sided battle in 1967, which cost 18 American lives in just a few minutes. Instead of fighting, he had to watch as they died, because his only tool was a radio. He spent a lifetime wondering whether he had done enough. He will go back to the place where it happened and try to connect with the dead. Tom Donkey was a draftee who volunteered to be a paratrooper. He had a gift for asking the kinds of inconvenient questions, which were generally answered by putting him on shit detail. He was a pain in the ass. Tom lost a hero of his, a medic who died trying to save others, in the same battle as Terry. Tom will return to honor that hero and those who died with him. Rich Luttrell had received a royal ass-chewing from me back then. His mother had written the White House about her son not having clean socks. By the time the letter rolled down the chain of command, it was a problem for me, but the least of my worries. Rich has carried a big burden since then for killing the father of this girl and for killing a Catholic priest. He will try his best to make amends. Benito Garcia was the best point man I had ever seen. He had a sixth sense for avoiding danger. But after the battle, he had a huge gift for trouble and getting busted. He also had a reputation for showing the enemy no mercy. He did something that they had done to us, cut off the heads of the dead and put them on stakes. He will meet some of the men who escaped his rage. These were the guys who got on a plane with me and flew back to the place where we became who we are, veterans of what had then been the longest and perhaps the saddest war in American history, the place where the boys became men, the place which gave us so many memories and so much guilt.
You know, I think most of us, we have a similar, we could have done better. We feel guilty. I came home guilty as hell simply for being alive.
Guilt has taken different forms for each of us, but it always comes with great anger, rage at what had been done to us, or by us, or over the years, to the ones we loved.
I do a substantial number of deals a year, and I guess it's the old thing, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I like to do good deals. I don't like to do just a deal. I like to do a deal where it's going to be a win-win situation.
Ann Adrian was the consummate deal maker, a big-time commercial real estate broker in Silicon Valley. I was a divorced dad, a local TV reporter who had left Los Angeles to be with my son. She had never watched me on television, but read a newspaper article about my choice of family over career and wrote a note asking me to lunch that included a word of praise I had to look up. Within a year, we were married. I told everyone that I felt like I had won the lottery, and they agreed. We were a match set. In the 60s, when I fought in Vietnam, Ann flew soldiers there for World Airways. She was proud of my war service, but like me, had a difficult time with the anger that was part of it. She had her own legacy, a hidden history of sex abuse, which started when she was 12, lasting for years at the hands of this man, a secret hidden from everyone until it was too late. Those hidden memories came back after she stopped working. 3 years of retirement and months of acute depression, made worse by my ignorance and by my anger, all finally ending. She went on an errand, pulled to the side of a country road, took the gun I had taken to my war, shot herself in the chest, and slowly bled to death. In the months after Ann's death, I felt the exact same way that I felt when I came back from Vietnam 40 years before. And I thought I had buried the memories, but it was the same thing. I should have been able to do more. I should have been able to stop what happened to her and to them. And a blackness, a weight. It felt so horrible to be alive. And I thought I should do the same thing that Ann did. End it. But then the war saved me. The men that I served with found me. They thought I'd been a good old man, a pretty good commander, better than most, because I didn't waste lives. The contact came in the form of a phone call from, of all people, Tom Donkey. I believe that call saved my life.
I think Captain Pepper saved my life. being a good company commander. Captain Pepper saved a lot of lives. Does Captain Pepper know he saved lives? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But being a good old man at 23, keeping his cool, not putting people at risk unnecessarily. If I saved Captain Pepper's life by reconnecting with Captain Pepper and bringing him back into A Company, 2nd 327, if that's all I ever do for the rest of my life, I feel satisfied.
So the return trip to Vietnam would be my way of paying these men back. If they saved my life, maybe I could return the favor, help them live a little easier with their past. Perhaps all of us might find some measure of peace.
I have no anxieties or problems with going back. I don't anticipate anything other than enjoying the men that are going to be with me, that I've fought side by side with, men I respect. I think it's going to be terrific.
Going back this time is, I have a sense of security because I fought with all these guys in combat. You know, it's like a brotherhood again. I mean, it really is. I mean, I just feel regenerated, like I'm 18 again.
Hoping we'll have fun. I don't know what to expect, so fun sounds good.
Just beautiful. Broken clouds, you can see the towns. I'm ready to start moving around down there. What a skydive. I didn't think I'd come back. I'm kind of excited now.
I'm just going to have a good time. I'm going to enjoy the company I'm with.
5 guys that served in combat are going back. I feel good.
I like the people of Vietnam. I like the country. It'll be fun to see it again in a different view.
Vietnam has its own unique smell, and I want to smell. It will wake up my sense. I don't know what it'll do. I have no idea, but I just know that I'm in good company, and I plan on relaxing and unwinding and maybe burying some ghosts.
We're back.
Yeah, that won't hurt.
I'll hold them back.
We're headed for places where the memory is strongest. Hue, Quang Nai, Quay San, Duc Pho. But this trip will also bring new names from old enemies. Pham Duc Hai, Hong Min Zu, men we fought against, who will travel with us for a while.
It takes me back 40 years. I mean, you know, I'm not in some new world. This is the old world. This is the chaos of Vietnam. Move this out into the jungle. This country was a total war, you know. Just move this out into the jungle. Crazy war. It's just pure insanity. It just looks like insanity now.
As part of the experience, I hired a couple of videographers to go along and record what happened. Randy Allen and Vince Shea from my hometown in California. They jumped at the chance to see Vietnam. They hadn't been born when we went to war.
I don't listen to you guys, but no.
The last one, 8007.
Oh yes. I just feel like eyes are on me.
Get a haircut.
Just get a haircut.
It's an experience.
You never went to a barber by yourself. You would always have to have a partner standing there with his fully loaded M16 ready to rock and roll. So that's the best part. However, it's still, you still have a little trepidation simply because of the old days. You can't erase those tapes. You cannot erase them.
The Cu Chi tunnels outside Saigon.
Tunnels of Chu Chi. It'd be fun to crawl in the tunnel again.
Today it's a major tourist attraction where you can experience a tiny bit of the war, crawling through dark spaces and pretending you're a soldier.
And over there, that's the
There were 200 kilometers of tunnels beneath Cu Chi and an American firebase on top. For a long time, the Americans didn't know the enemy was beneath their feet.
We're gonna have lights?
Yes, we have some more light in there.
Oh, okay, great. I'll do the 100 feet.
Most of the tunnels have now been widened to accommodate much larger tours.
Yes, you can do that. Not to pass. Number side.
Hey, Rich went in when it counted. Jerry
You're not
didn't.
to pass only the entrance too small.
Oh, okay.
You're very kind.
Benito Garcia fought near Cu Chi in 1965 with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. He was a tunnel rat then, but not today.
They were asking me if I wanted to go in the tunnels. I said, no, thank you. I don't need to experience that again. And I don't need to see the Hollywood version of this bullshit.
They don't know, but I used to build these at home. I hid from the police in them.
It's a little harder than I expected. It's so disgusting that we do, even the Vietnamese, and we do the same thing with our memorials, that we turn them into places where tourists come, and as if it's going to teach anybody anything. To me, it's a desecration of where brave men fought and died. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. I mean, I could be standing in a spot where Americans and Vietnamese died. Or I could be where someone spilled their guts, someone got their heads cut off, someone was blown apart. I could be standing in where there was blood spilled under my feet. And that's a desecration. It's like walking on a grave, which is, this whole fucking area is a gravesite. I would think we should be somewhere in the distance looking down at it, but not down here stepping all over the ground where men fought and died and suffered, yelling for their mothers. Just yelling in pain. And you couldn't do a fucking thing to help them. You wish you could get to them, but you're under fire and you stick your head up.
As Benito knows, the real tunnels are very narrow and have no lights. For a few minutes, I took a wrong turn in the pitch black, came to a dead end, and panicked, trapped, just like I was all those years before when I was trying to get to one of my wounded men.
Yeah, I think it reminds you of being a coward because you didn't get up and charge. You stayed to stay alive. The survival instinct is so strong it makes you a coward sometimes. I thought you could get over shit like that, but you can't get over it. You never get over things like that. And that's why I won't go into those damn things down in there. Because the smell, I'm just afraid of how it would affect me. I don't need to experience that kind of stuff again. The war's not over. It'll never be over.
Benito volunteered for 3 tours. He was wounded 5 times, court-martialed twice, and received non-judicial punishment 16 times. After the war, like all of us, Benito had a hard time adjusting.
When we got back, I can get a fucking job as a cab driver in Chicago. I went to the Daly's Veterans Help Program. I couldn't get a damn job, so I started robbing banks. To hell with them. What are they gonna do, send me back to Vietnam?
After robbing 6 banks including one when he was on an honor farm. Benito got caught, but they didn't send him back to Vietnam. Instead, they sent him to a federal prison for 6 years for the bank robberies. And he did another 3 years in state prison for drug trafficking and gun running. He had gotten addicted to life right on the edge, just like the war. Before heading north, where we did most of our fighting during the war, we spent 2 days on R&R, on the coast at Muine, decompressing from the travel and getting ready for the challenges ahead. It was as if the years since had disappeared, as long as we didn't look in the mirror.
We're not friends.
Yeah.
We're brothers.
Brothers.
You know?
Yeah.
And what you may find out here is you don't particularly like your brothers, but I love my brothers.
Yeah.
There's times I don't like you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I never have liked you.
But you told me the other day you loved me, see?
Yeah, but that's because liking leads to loving, and loving leads to...
Are you filming this, Cole? Okay. Okay, say something, guys. Got my friend Jerry here. Come on, come.
Seven. Hey. I need to come back there.
That was fun! Woo!
The last time I rode a bike was right before Mother's Day of '72 when my daddy arrested me for robbing those banks. That was the last time I rode a bike.
Emotions the polar opposite of each other, love and hate, came together more than 40 years ago on a trail in Vietnam. An 18-year-old boy, Rich Luttrell, shot and killed this young father, Nguyen Trung Hoang, and took a picture from the dead man's wallet. Rich would carry it in his own wallet for 22 years. Why would he do that? Perhaps it represented something Rich would never have, the love of his own father. His father had been an abusive drunk who beat women and children, who abandoned his family, a man who deserved to be hated. The soldier Rich killed was a father too, but one who Rich thought must be loved. With a child and a family, a man like Rich who was serving his country. When Rich looked at the picture over the years, he saw the pain that child must feel, a pain not so different from his, of love which was missing.
I mean, she loved her father, and I hated my dad. It was hard all the years growing up, you know, and not having the dad around, and thinking about what I did know of him, and just hated him. And my dad lived to be 46 years old, and he died of cirrhosis of the liver, you know. And the nurses called me at the hospital and wanted me to come down and see him. And I thought, what for? I mean, you know. But I went and seen him, you know, as, you know, trying to, you know, get something from him, but he hadn't changed a bit. I mean, he died. Yeah. And we don't even have a headstone up for him.
Finally, in 1989, Rich removed the picture from his wallet and left it, along with a letter to the dead man, at the Vietnam Wall, hoping that would be the end of it.
Dear sir, for 22 years I've carried your picture in my wallet. You stared at me for so long, armed with your AK-47, and yet you did not fire. Forgive me for taking your life. So many times over the years I have stared at your picture and your daughter, I suspect. Each time my heart and guts would burn with the pain of guilt. I have 2 daughters myself now. I perceive you as a brave soldier defending his homeland. It is time for me to release my pain and guilt. Forgive me, sir.
But 6 years later, Offerings at the Wall was published under the direction of the National Park Service. And on pages 52 and 53, both the picture and the letter came back, and with it, not an answer, but a question.
You know, little girl, what do you want from me? I mean, what do you want from me?
What did the little girl want? The answer was now finally clear to Rich. He had taken her father's life. All he could give back was the picture and his regret. He had to find her. It took 5 years, but finally in 2000, Rich walked into a village outside Hanoi and presented Win Lon with the only image in existence of her and her father, an event reported on NBC's program Dateline.
I'd rather face combat again than face this lady. I mean, I really would. I'd rather face combat again. I mean, how do you tell a full-grown woman, 41 years old, hi, my name's Rich Letcher, I killed your father. I mean, you know, how can that be an easy thing to do? Basically what I told her was, I met your father on a trail in July, and I took his life, and I've carried this picture, you know, all these years, and I'm here to return it to you. And I told her, Sen Tatu Chatoi, which means please forgive me. She did. She really did forgive me. And once I give her the picture and seeing how she reacts, I realized I'd given her father back, you know? No way I could ever get my father back because I didn't have a father. But to her, she had a father back.
So 9 years later, Rich returns again, bringing the spirit of the father he took away, the spirit he still reluctantly carries. He thought returning the picture would end his obligation. But the bond between the American soldier and the Vietnamese daughter not only endures, it's grown stronger, because the memory of the fathers, his and hers, still live.
She sees her father through me. She really does. I mean, can I fully understand it? I mean, I can accept what she's saying, but it's hard for me to understand the belief that she had. It's good to see you again. Oh, you look so fine. You look like my daughter.
Xin trông như là con cái của ông.
There's so many things I wanted to say to her the last time I was here, and I just couldn't do it. And I will this time. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Chị có ổn không ạ?
You okay? You okay?
Bình thường chứ.
Vâng.
Don't cry.
Đừng khóc nữa.
Right.
Đừng khóc nữa.
Tell her it's been 9 years, but it seems like yesterday. This is Dai Uy, my captain.
Đây là ông Đại Uy.
In 1967.
Đấy, người chiến đấu của ông của năm 1967.
This is my very best friend.
Đây là một trong những người bạn tốt nhất của ông ấy.
Like my brother.
Giống như là cũng coi như là anh em của ông ấy.
We've been close since 1967, and his name is Terry Red.
Đây là ông lính thủy đánh bộ năm 1967.
This fellow's name is Tom Donkey.
Đây ông Tom Donkin từ California.
And this fellow's name is Benito Garcia. He served in Vietnam 3 years.
Yeah. Tức là đây ông này ở gần nhà ông ấy, cách cái nơi ông ở khoảng 2 tiếng rưỡi xe chạy. Hôm nay cũng là bạn của ông.
Pete Pepper, the company commander, asked me to come back to Vietnam, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to come or not. The main reason I came was to come and see Lon. Tell her I'm so happy that they found the remains of her father and buried him.
Rất cảm ơn các ông, mà ngày hôm nay nhìn thấy các ông mà không nhìn thấy mặt của bố con.
Tell her I'm sad too.
Ông cũng bảo cũng rất là buồn.
Tell her I hope she forgives me.
Và ông hy vọng là chị sẽ tha thứ cho ông. Nói ông câu để cho ông yên lòng.
Khi bố em đã khuất đi rồi thì đến bây giờ thì trong tâm của chị em thì ông chính là một người cha của chị em.
And tell her she's my daughter too.
Ông bảo là ông cũng coi chị như là con gái của ông vậy.
It's great seeing you again. I'm so happy. You are a great daughter. Your father would have been very proud of you. Great daughter.
Lon believes the body of her father was found with Rich's help. It was buried at this military cemetery near his ancestral home. She believes her father's spirit is now here to be properly honored by his family. Rich's father lies in an unmarked grave somewhere in Illinois, never visited by anyone. Rich and Lon burned incense for her father, a signal of respect for the dead, a way to communicate with their spirits. The Vietnamese believe that spirits live in an upper level and we reside below them. The smoke helps take our words, our thoughts, and our prayers to them, giving them peace. For the living, there may be a measure of comfort, if not peace, found in a simple embrace. October 8th, 1967. A group of soldiers from my old company, overrun by a vastly superior force of North Vietnamese soldiers near Quay Son. I had left a few weeks before, only to return from R&R prior to my second tour a few days after the fight. These images are from an NBC documentary. They'd been filming nearby when a call came for help.
Maverick Bravo, this is George, over.
Terry Wren, my old radio operator, whose call sign was Maverick Bravo, made the call, guiding the rescue force in at great risk to his life. He was one of the few survivors.
I had to come out and get Joe. Yeah. I went out there to get a man. He was hurt. I got shot in the arm. Yeah.
Despite heavy fighting in the days prior, my old company was mistakenly divided into smaller units, far apart, too far to help each other. It was an advantage the enemy had obviously been waiting for. Heavy monsoon rains, no air support, artillery useless because no one knew with certainty where they were. Tom and Rich were more than a kilometer away with other platoons. Benito was in the hospital. The only help was a sister company, which came as fast as it could, but not before all of Terry's smaller unit was gunned down in open rice paddies, their ammunition exhausted. 18 young men would die, the rest wounded, in a matter of minutes.
I stayed alive because I'm very lucky. I was positive I wouldn't die in Vietnam.
A landing zone.
40 years later, we've returned to the same area to find the place which is burned into Terry's memory.
A lot of it looks familiar now, but I don't think this is the exact spot. It scares me that there may be something hidden back in my subconscious that I call it the monster. I don't want it to come out. I hope I've got it under control. I don't want anything to spark memories that are going to give me problems after I get home.
We're trying to find the location of the battle that took place on October 8th. I wasn't here, so going off a map that one of the platoon leaders who was here had, and we're asking the villagers if they know where it was, and they do.
This is the place that I came back for. I want to fill this bottle with some some blood-soaked, American blood-soaked Vietnamese soil. And I can just do it symbolically somewhere close. Leave some flowers for our boys.
Among those who died that day was a medic, John McMasters IV, the kid with the sunglasses.
Enemy gunfire. Medics were on the move looking to see who was hit. So I guess I kind of had hero worship with John McMaster, because I felt like I needed to make it up to him.
Doc McMasters had seen Tom Donkey go down in an open rice paddy a month before, and McMasters had to be held back from going out to rescue him, as Tom was told by a buddy later.
Yeah, I remember that day. I remember that day out there when your sorry ass was laying out on that rice paddy and somebody had to sit on Doc to keep him from going out there and dragging your sorry ass off that rice paddy. And I went, whoa, he was going to run out there and drag us off that rice paddy? Well, that was the way medics were. They were dead serious. They had a hell of a job to do. John was no different than those medics.
It's very heavy cover here. A lot of the buildings, well, all the buildings have changed so far. No straw huts, all concrete. We're following a guide who says he knows where the fight took place. So when we were here, there were no blacktop roads. It was all dirt roads. We got into a lot of trouble on those dirt roads. We lost some guys, we killed some NVA. Now, and you never heard the insect noises. I never remember hearing that. There was so much fighting, everything was quiet all the time. You need me to carry that? I believe this is the road we did a lot of fighting on. I think we lost a few guys on this road. But, and we moved right up the road. That's not good. So, but boy, it sure feels like the area, but man, this is just a rush.
Terry showed his guts and spilled some. He's a good man, and he showed his mettle that day, and that's why I'm here, to support him in whatever he might need.
I wanted to protect the men more than, or the wounded more than anything, but I didn't have the tools to do it. So the only tool I had was a radio, so I used the radio to try to get help up as fast as I can.
I just hope Terry does okay, because he was the only survivor that day. I thought he was killed until 2 days later when we went into July for stand down.
I kept thinking, I can't humiliate my country. So that was on my mind too. So I had to suck it up and take what I had coming if they found me. But Captain Pepper, he was a great influence on me in the 3 or 4 months that we were together. And he made me tough enough that I could last through something like that.
Yeah.
Có cái đầm lúa mùa ở trên đó không anh này?
Nhớ rồi. I never thought Charlie Company could have moved that whole way.
Nhưng mà 6-7 ngày mới lấy đi mới cho. Nó hôm nay là 7 ngày mới cho. Có lịch sử mà, có lịch sử ở đây, có lịch sử đến Mỹ mà. Nó ở đây có lịch sử đến Mỹ. Cái hồi đó đem xác ai lấy xác.
Tom Donkey brought flowers to mark the place where Doc McMasters and the others died. I brought incense to burn for them and the Vietnamese who died there. Maybe their spirits can sense that we've come to find peace for them and for us.
Ask him if there's a rock wall down there.
Yeah.
I don't think this is it. Unless I'm looking at the terrain wrong, unless I'm coming from the wrong direction. But I was almost positive I'd be able to feel them. I'm going to move over this way and take a look down there. We engaged the enemy And 2nd Platoon was they'd almost finished off 2nd Platoon. But my biggest regret that day is that I didn't take out a machine gun that was to my left quite a ways down, which was killing a lot of the men. But my M16 was jamming every other round, so I really didn't have much of a weapon. And I think about that a lot. I wish I would have at least made an attempt to take that gun out, but I didn't know where he was. I had to guess where he was, and he was a good enough machine gunner that if I guessed wrong, I wouldn't have made it out either.
Among those killed was Jeffrey Flournoy, one of 8 children. Jeffrey died trying to save his new company commander.
We were like brothers as far as we were always fighting, nitpicking each other. At the end, Jeff tried to call me out into the rice paddy just before the NVA finished off the guys in the rice paddy. And Jeff yelled at me, he says, "If you don't get out here to help me with the company commander, I'm going to court-martial you." So I started to go out there, and a lieutenant stopped me from going out. Said, "You've got the only battalion radio left. You got to stay here. We'll go out and get Jeff." Well, by then the machine gun had cut Jeff down. I think they were waiting for Jeff to lure somebody out of the weeds, another paratrooper, and then he was going to get as many as he could. I didn't realize that till probably a couple of days ago, that Jeff wasn't going to get out of that paddy alive. So the 3 that went out to help Jeff and the company commander, they also joined them. They died.
Terry could only watch as the enemy shot the wounded in the paddy and then searched the bodies. When they'd finished their business, they sat down next to the bodies and took a break, smoking cigarettes. The enemy soldiers only left when they heard the rescue force approaching. Had Terry not called for help and guided them in, the wounded he was protecting would have been found and killed too. For his heroism, Terry was awarded the Silver Star.
This could have been it. This here could be it.
I'm going to try to link up with him. Break Maverick Bravo.
No, I'm okay. Don't touch me. We're close. I can feel them. It was like my arms were straws, and they were drawing something out of the paddy, and it was like using the complete size of my arm coming up. And when it got to my shoulders, I became scared. It didn't hurt. It felt good. But when it got to my shoulders, I yanked my hands out because I thought, what if it gets to my heart and it kills me? So I jerked my hands back out, and then I broke down again because I thought, what if it was a good thing, a message from those guys? I've seen people say that they could feel spirits go in you, but I don't know what this was. We're in the area now. I don't know if I'll find it, but we're in the area. Vietnam keeps calling you back. When I was laying in that paddy, I was home. It felt so good. Laying in the water, being wet, being cold, it all felt good because that's what defined us. The wall was actually higher, and when we came back to Charlie Company, they drug the bodies over this wall, and they knocked it down as they came over. I want to get out of here. Okay. Go home. Let's go home.
After the war, Terry Wren got a job as a plant mechanic for Armstrong Tile in Illinois, the same place his dad worked. Terry struggled to recover from his wounds. After lots of trouble with his superiors, he was retired early. The Thien An Catholic Monastery outside Way, a place of worship and the scene of a horrible accident, the memory of which Rich Luttrell has carried for 42 years. There was a fierce fight here during Tet of 1968. North Vietnamese soldiers had occupied the monastery, and when Rich's company was near, they opened fire.
We wasn't a click away when boom, 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 boom. I mean, mortar rounds going off all over. And we was in a graveyard. I mean, guys were scrambling, hollering, screaming, getting hit, and diving for cover. I mean, it was chaos. And guys returning fire, and I was returning fire, and all in vain. I mean, you know, cement walls, and I mean, you didn't know what the hell you was doing, what you was shooting at or nothing.
It was during that fight that another kind of father came into Rich's life for just a brief moment.
I mean, I was wound tight. I was wrapped tight. I was scared. And the NVA ran out and I shot him. And another one followed, you know, directly after him. I killed him. Another one come out and I fired. And it was a French priest.
The killing of an innocent French priest, the weight of that act, of that mistake, has been on Rich's shoulders ever since.
It's changed. But I mean, it all happened in seconds. I mean, just seconds. And I stepped over him and moved out. You know, to kill a man of the cloth, I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, it's just taboo. It really got to me. I mean, just knowing that what I'd done, you know? I mean, it was just god-awful.
There had only been 2 French priests at the monastery then, Father Guy and Father Urbain, members of the Benedictine order posted to Vietnam to spread the gospel, to serve their God. They would never leave this place. And here, too, Rich had retrieved photographs which were a daily reminder of what he'd done, just like the picture he had carried all those years of the other father who had died at his hand.
Thầy Vòng có biết ai đây này? Đấy là người Where are you from?
We are from California, USA.
Yeah.
These are for you.
Yes, thank
I bring
you.
them back for you.
Ông tặng hết cho đơn vị của mình.
Thank you so much. I am very glad to meet you. Now I will show you to see the grip of the monastery if you want.
Yes. Brother Stanislaus took us to the graves of the 2 priests, puzzled by the old American soldier who had come back here to confess and perhaps solve a mystery. There's no record at the monastery of the priests dying in combat or by accident. They died, but at the hands of others, not in the heat of battle. They were murdered in cold blood. A few days after Rich's fight, after both sides left, the monastery was visited by men with a list, and the names of Father Guy and Father Urbain were on it. Those men with the list had a mission: to purge the city of foreign influence. Brother Stanislaus told us that Father Guy and Father Urbain were taken away by those men and buried alive. Their bodies were discovered later and brought back to rest here in consecrated ground.
Father Guy,
Is he in the picture, Father Guy?
Thầy có. In the early morning, 2, Vietnamese communist soldiers were shot to death right here.
I killed 2 here.
Yeah.
I killed 2 here.
He had killed because he had to. There was no choice. But he hadn't killed an innocent man. He hadn't killed a priest.
A lot of men wounded and killed here that day. That I killed 2 NVA and fired at Law's rocket, but tell him that, I mean, it was an accident, and I felt guilt inside for a long time.
Thế là ông nói là cái hồi đó do chủ cụ thể đặt đồ.
Yeah. Well, tell him that after 42 years, that I'm glad to bring these pictures back. I had them in a scrapbook, and it wouldn't been for Captain Pepper, I wouldn't even have brought them.
42 years ago, this had been a place of great pain. Finally, for Rich, it has become a place of peace.
Dear Father, you bless you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Be with you on us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rich Luttrell returned to Illinois after the war. He had a hard time holding a job, but ultimately worked very successfully for Illinois Veterans Affairs, where he retired. During the war, we called the Vietnamese Gooks and Charlies. The Vietnamese called us monkey men because of the hair most of us had on our bodies. It's easier to kill someone if you can make them different than you. In fact, it's absolutely necessary.
They were not the same as us, no. Their lives were insignificant. We were out to count them dead, not alive. We wanted a body count. Every opportunity to do what they seemed to do so effectively to us always felt good.
But that was 42 years ago.
I'm going to go to a military cemetery and then wait for the NBA soldiers to come and meet us there.
The military cemetery in Quang Ngai is a fitting place to meet men we once fought against. Many of them ended up here because of us. School children are cleaning up the gravesites in preparation for Vietnamese Memorial Day. More than 40 years ago, Pham Duc Hai and Hong Minh Dzu were teenagers when they marched down the Ho Chi Minh Trail to fight against us in 1966. This time, they came by train from their hometown outside Hanoi. Doug Reese, the man who found our old enemies, is walking with them.
Mr. Han.
Hi.
Mr. Hai.
No English?
Hey, we didn't get a hug.
Hey, sir.
Hey, Mr. Hai.
No hug? No hug?
You too.
Needless to say, neither of them.
7 times? Yeah, that's it. 5 times.
5. I see what the kids are doing.
He said something about, sorry I missed you. Dai Wee? Dai Wee? Trung Wee? Trung. Trung? Trung. That. Oh, 3-striper. And you?
We misunderstood the translation and ended up inadvertently promoting Hai to colonel. Actually, he had been a sergeant, like I was before becoming an officer in 1964. Both men were promoted on the battlefield. Dzu ended up being a platoon leader, like I was when I first went to Vietnam in 1966. Hai was promoted to platoon sergeant. Both men were badly wounded and were awarded the equivalent of the Purple Heart. Hai was hit in the head by an explosion from an N-79 grenade during the Tet Offensive in 1968, and he was evacuated home many months later. His wounds were so severe that he never returned to the fight, and remnants of the shrapnel are still in his skull. Dzu was wounded twice on the same day at another battle during Tet of 1968, shrapnel from artillery shells hitting his right leg and shoulder. He was eventually evacuated to the north in 1970 and remained there.
You can see one instant burner on the grave.
Right.
You put one.
One.
Huh?
Terry still carries metal fragments in his leg from a mortar round which wounded him during the same Tet Offensive. Benito was wounded 5 times, Rich and Tom were wounded twice. I was lucky. I never got hit. Both Dzu and Hai were decorated, awards that sound like the equivalent of our Silver Star for gallantry, like the one Terry received.
All unknown soldiers, 1968.
So like us, they were good soldiers, depending upon your perspective. Like us, they report suffering from the effects of combat, memories of killing, nightmares where their dead friends call for them, like ours sometimes call for us. Like us, they knew that if you didn't kill the enemy, the enemy would kill you.
He would like to give the message to you that the war anyway was over. And the most important thing is that they are with you as survivors up to war.
Right.
And anyway, they are personally happy to meet you right here. Probably in the past, you were in the two sides, fighting against each other. But anyway, today, you are like friends together. And anyway, they would like to give so many, wishes to your family members, good health, happiness, and
the same to
prosperity.
him. Yeah.
Thì những người này cũng nói là cũng xin cầu chúc cho hai bác, tức là những lời chúc tốt đẹp nhất cho đến hai bác cũng như đến gia đình. Thì trong quá khứ thì những cái chuyện gì nó đã qua thì mình cũng bỏ qua. Bởi vì cái lúc đó thì cũng do chiến tranh cho nên là cũng chỉ nhận mệnh lệnh từ cấp trên. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I have some things I'd like to give them.
Cái đây là con dao.
The bracelet from one of your comrades.
Dạ, cái này cũng không biết. Thì nó chỉ là một cái vòng thôi, cái vòng sắt của một cái người đồng đội nào đó.
The belt buckle from one of your comrades.
Dạ, cái này là từ cái nịt đó, thì nó rơi ra của những người đó, thì họ bây giờ họ vẫn còn giữ sau khi họ nhập được từ chiến trường.
And also.
Dạ, cái đây là một con dao.
Bayonet for an AK-47.
Đây là lê AK tiệp. Xin cảm ơn tất cả cựu chiến binh Mỹ đã giúp anh em chúng tôi mà trong thanh nhàn và có một số vật kỷ niệm cách đây mấy chục năm.
And he said that he could on behalf of his company and the NVA soldier who were dead, they could highly appreciate for your efforts to keep those things and return it, to themselves. So when they go back to the home, they will keep it as memories, and if possible, they try their best to find out more. Their college, their partners who were there during wartime.
Yeah, I hope the spirit of these comrades come back to you.
Thì ổng là đại úy mà, thì cũng thay mặt cái nhóm là hy vọng là những cái này nó sẽ là một kỷ vật gì đó cho các chú, và đồng thời những linh hồn của những người mà đã khuất, của những chiến sĩ đã khuất thì nó vẫn hiện ở trong lá cờ này, thì nó sẽ theo với lại các chú.
Xin cảm ơn.
Yeah, he said thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Tell him the war is over.
Yeah.
And that I wish his family happiness and health and peace, and wish the best for all of them, all of his family.
Yeah, he supposed that the whole group we come back to the memorial, and we just keep a few seconds, to keep quiet.
Okay.
Keep quiet.
Chú nói tiếng Anh là 1 phút mình bắt đầu thì tất cả với bộ mũ.
Yeah, and it's like
Okay.
Our daughters. Yeah. Yeah. Just wait. Just a few seconds. 1 minute. Yeah.
Nhớ các đồng chí đã khuất, anh em chúng tôi 1 phút mặc niệm bắt đầu.
Make your head a little bit lower. Okay. It's over.
Thôi thì ba cái đụng cái đó vô nhau là không được nha.
Broken.
Move. Here, look.
Bye.
Wait.
After we got, yeah.
We traveled with our former enemies to Bak To, near the Songve Valley, where they had watched us years before, as we spent several days evacuating thousands of civilians to make the fighting there easier.
The mission that we were given in the Songve River Valley was to come in and clear out all the inhabitants, load them up on helicopters with only what they could carry, and round up the livestock that could be driven and drive it to Quang Nai. The livestock that couldn't be driven, the ducks, chickens, and pigs, were killed on site. And later, all the huts were burned, and it was declared a free fire zone, which meant that if you came into this area, regardless of who you were, we could shoot at you and not have to even ask questions or anything at all, just shoot. It was shoot on sight. And it wasn't until later that I thought, what if that happened to me in my hometown? Somebody came in and said, get out and don't come back, don't ever come back. And so we've come back now to see what's happened here. And one of the things that did happen while we were here is one of our medics delivered a baby, a woman who was pregnant and gave birth in the village as we were moving through.
I have good memories here because, like I said, here I didn't take a life, I helped deliver a life, 2 lives, a Vietnamese baby and a calf. And I recall how that Mama Sang, when she first came up and saw us, how angry she was. And then she saw how we had delivered the baby and gathered food and given the little girl that was having the baby, gave her money. And she just started bowing. She took off her head and started crying and kissing our hands. So this is a good place. This was good for me. I recall that we had been fighting quite a bit, and when that child was born, it had been raining, and when when the baby was born, the rain stopped, and that child, the infant, let out a yell, a scream of I don't know, of life. It could be heard. It was in the middle of the night. It could be heard across the entire valley. Well, it's good enough to know that here in this valley there was life. Oh.
The best part about this trip is with the NVA soldiers is the only thing we really talk about is happy times. And they had their happy times and we had ours. Not many, but we did have them. And there are more happy times now since we've come back than we had when we first came over. We talk about our wounds. We talk about how bad the wounds are. We talk about how weather changes affect both of us, both sides. It's been a good experience for me. I don't know if it would be a good experience for everybody, but for me it seems to be working out. The NVA soldiers were surprised that we are so happy. So I think that's a good sign. It seems like both sides are looking for the good in each other.
101st Airborne.
Nice hat. Very nice.
Good hat. Nice hat. I gave my hat to the lieutenant, NVA lieutenant, that was wounded real bad in the legs. And he gave me a Ho Chi Minh pin. I told him he's a screaming eagle now.
and you must be a communist.
No.
So what do you think of it so far?
I'm really enjoying myself. I'm really glad we came back. The Songve Valley, where we herded all the cattle and the people out. Oh, it's just awesome. I love the colonel. I love the colonel and the lieutenant. And it's really funny because they said they fought against our company. Yeah. And to meet them 42 years later blew my mind. I mean, it just blew my mind. But it's real interesting. And they're not unlike us. I mean, he's just the colonel has 5 children, and the other guy, the lieutenant, has 3 children. And they're And what they told me, you know, we forgot about the war a long time ago, and we're friends now. And he said, let's just move on.
Yeah.
But I agree with him. You know, yeah. I have a lot of bad memories of this place, but this time it's good.
Yeah.
It's really a healing process for me.
We're in the general vicinity of where we were August 16th, 1967. That was the day we made a Airborne assault, landed on a hill and came down and got a whole bunch of people shot up. That night we got mortared, and let's see, 13 more were wounded and one more died on the hilltop. I was wounded in the afternoon. It's surreal. I'm just enjoying the heck out of this. It's just, I don't know, I feel like I'm home. This is home. This is, I think, kind of where I was born, right here. It's an amazing feeling. I don't know. I can't put words to how I feel. I'm excited. For the first time on this trip, I'm really, truly excited.
After the war, Tom Donkey became a California highway patrolman for 10 years. When it became apparent that his way and the highway were a lot different, he gave it up and tried a bunch of other things because he didn't work well with others.
It's been a really good thing to have Mr. High and Mr. Dew with us. We share the same experience. You know, you fight and you think what you're doing is so unique, and it turns out that what you're doing is the same for everybody, same for your adversary. And it's been good to be able to talk to them and to figure out that we've got these things in common, that they're human things that are in common. And you know, we share that, and because we can share it, then it makes it softer for us. It doesn't take it away. It can't go away, never, ever. But it can be softer. It can be lighter. And that's what's happening, I think, for all of us.
On the way to Bac To, we stopped for a break and discovered a blacksmith in a hut alongside the road. He was sitting on the ground in front of a primitive furnace, hammering on pieces of things we'd left behind. We dropped millions of bombs and artillery shells on Vietnam during the war. Now that metal is salvaged at great danger to be made here into farm implements. A chunk of metal from an artillery shell is being fashioned into a new tip for a plow. The plows wear out quickly because of the heavy Vietnamese soil. The blacksmith was missing a leg. He'd stepped on a landmine while looking for scrap metal. High and I both took turns with the sledgehammer, helping make new tips for plows. Although I am not a religious man, a quote from the Old Testament came to mind. Isaiah, chapter 2, verse 4. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. A few days later, Lieutenant Zhu and Sergeant High had to go home. They're both retired now and live outside Hanoi in the city of Tay Binh. After the war, Zhu went to college in Hanoi. He eventually became director of a state-owned irrigation company. Sergeant High was treated for his wounds for a long time, eventually getting a job as a security guard for a market in his hometown. They both received disability payments from their government, like we do from ours. High gets a little more because of the severity of his wounds. Zhu's right leg is 2 inches shorter than the left because of his wounds, and he has persistent pain along his right side. High is deaf in his right ear. He has headaches, problems remembering things, and may be experiencing the onset of Alzheimer's disease. The shrapnel in his head bothers him, like the shrapnel in Terry's leg still bothers him. Zhu spends his time at home working in his garden. High also stays home looking after his grandchildren. We didn't apologize for what we did, and they didn't either. They never said they won. We never said we lost.
Colonel, I'd like to present this coin to you from one warrior to another and to an honorable adversary. May you have long life, good health, and many grandchildren.
tomb we do. This bugle, our spirit, all of our spirits have passed through this bugle. And yours too. And I want to give it to you.
Kỷ niệm này hả? Có đâu không? Vâng, cảm động.
Sau hơn 40 năm, chúng ta là ở hai chiến tuyến khác nhau. Nhờ Chúa, nhờ Phật, chúng ta còn sống. Chúng ta gặp lại nhau, mặc dù ngôn ngữ bất đồng, nhưng với cái ánh mắt và nụ cười, chúng ta cũng biết rằng là cái quá khứ ảm đạm vụ án ngày xưa đã được xóa đi. Chúc cho anh em chiến binh Mỹ mạnh khỏe, may mắn trong chuyến đi và hạnh phúc trong cuộc sống. Rất cảm ơn trong cái chuyến đi vừa qua, anh em tôi rất là cảm động những cái thiện chí của các bạn.
No kissing, no kissing. Not in trouble.
Play it.
Yeah. Play.
Well, you can't play, but you can fight.
Don't make Rich cry.
It's an honor, Colonel.
My turn. My turn.
I'd like to say that after the trip, all 5 of us were cured. That the PTSD magically disappeared, the wounds healed, the memories killed, the weight finally lifted. It was too much to hope for. The best that we could do was put some pictures next to the ones in our minds. Benito Garcia had beheaded enemy soldiers and put the heads on bamboo stakes. Now he could sit next to a man he would have gladly killed, exchanging stories about grandchildren.
You know what? I found that the NVA were guys just like us. Even though that's the reality, I am not that brave a man to walk into a group of veterans and telling them that. I don't have those balls. But I found that they are veterans like we are. Period. And I'm uncomfortable with realizing that. The violence is still there. That I've never been able to get rid of that. The propensity I have to immediately want to resolve everything with violence. That part has not, and I don't think it ever will change. It's always just on the surface. If anything, this trip helped me appreciate so much more what I do have, and be grateful for that. And I see so many more opportunities. It seems like I'm going to have a rebirth, a moral rebirth.
Benito counsels veterans on their VA rights as kind of a hobby. He's gotten hundreds of vets lifetime compensation valued at more than $140 million. Money they might not have gotten without his help. It's not exactly robbing banks, but it's close.
Those rotten sons of bitches are supposed to be helping us, and they're not. They are the enemy. And when I see a combat veteran decorated, being denied benefits, and this clown that never left the country receiving 100%, no. I love to stick it to the VA, and I love to help my fellow veterans. I guess in essence, I owe a lot. I owe a lot, and I'm trying to make up for it.
Tom Donkey still mourns the loss of his hero, John McMasters IV, visiting John's grave in California often. But now, at last, he feels at home in Vietnam.
I'm an old cop. Benito Garcia is an old bank robber. My brother, forever. Like, would I pick Benito Garcia to be a friend of mine if I didn't wander around the jungle with him 42 years ago? I don't think so. We said on several occasions, there ain't anything about you guys I like, but you're my brother, so I guess I have to love you. Every one of the guys that went back opened up and probably said some things to me that they've never said to anyone ever before in their life. And to be trusted by your comrades and just simply liked is a great honor.
Tom loves to grow things on 10 acres in Northern California. He's known as the godfather of heirloom tomatoes. He also spends a lot of his time finding fellow veterans and bringing them back into the family. Back then, radio man Terry Wren could only call for help. Now he can play and pose with the grandchildren of the men who may have killed his comrades.
I loved it. It's like that country keeps pulling me back. When I was in that mud, it was like I belonged there. I bet I could have laid down and just died in that patio and been happier than a hog in mud. Serenity. It just felt so good. That mud just caressed my body. I got to go back to that rice paddy. I got to look at the village. The dirt road we went up is now a 2-lane blacktop road. There's concrete bridges. It was fun sitting in the village, drinking beer and looking at the people, and I'm thinking these could be the grandsons of people we shot. Vietnam was like opening a door. Once you step through it, you can't shut the door and it's gone. You're in the room with it, and it's part of your life now. And you have to either learn to deal with it or it'll grind you under. I didn't fulfill my destiny as a paratrooper because I wasn't able to kill enough. And I don't know what enough is, but that's my problem.
Terry lives not far from his best friend, Rich Luttrell, in Illinois on 12 acres. Every once in a while, he shoots his rifle. This one never jams, and he rarely misses. Rich Luttrell had killed more than a dozen men face to face, but not the French priest. Now he hugs the daughter of one of the men he did kill and gives her the comfort only a father can provide.
It's a joy to see her. It's a joy to see her. And when we embrace, I mean, it's just, I still visualize her as that 6-year-old girl with ponytails. And she's 51 years old, but I still have this image of that little girl. Yeah.
Rich skydives every chance he gets. He has more than 800 jumps. For a few moments, focusing on that urgency lets him forget those times so long ago when he had no choice.
That's why I still skydive, I think. You know, it erases all the bad memories. I mean, I feel young again, feel alive again. Peace, you know, peace with the world.
My hope was that it would change us. It would give us peace to be able to say, okay, the people we fought against weren't monsters. You know, we could understand who they were. We could get a face to the enemy, a life story to the enemy, and have some kind of common human connection. The connection for me is between the living and the dead. The living saved me. Friends from the past who still call me sir. It remains an honor to be the old man. As awkward as it feels, I can admit to loving my brothers. I can also finally admit that I especially mourn the death of my other radio man, Jeffrey Flournoy, sometimes seeing his face reflected in others. I wish he could have been on this trip along with Terry. To see those two brothers together would be special. Terry lived to be a hero. Jeffrey died as one. Anne thought that I was her hero, and I wanted to be her hero. I wanted to save her, but I couldn't. I didn't have the tools I needed to solve the secret until the fight was finished. I didn't even know who the enemy was. I did what I could, but it just wasn't enough. And I don't know what enough is. That's my problem. As my old enemy says, what happens in the past stays in the past. But my past is teaching me that the only person who can forgive me is myself.
Every time I run into veterans of our latest wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, I tell them about our trip, about our going back. And I also tell them, just think, in 40 years, you may be going back to Anbar or Kandahar and sitting down with some old guy you tried to kill, who tried to kill you. And you'll sit and have tea and cookies with them. And they say the same thing in the language soldiers use. With all due respect, sir, there's no fucking way. Well, that's what we would have said 40 years ago. You know, going back isn't so much about making peace with your enemy as it is making peace with yourself.
Rich Luttrell, Lon's spiritual father, died in Springfield, Illinois on November 6, 2010, following complications from abdominal surgery. He was laid to rest the day before Veterans Day. He had sought forgiveness all his life for the things he was forced to do. He said that he found peace on this trip. He was a good soldier, a better father, and a great friend.